In the year 2000, the founders of Netflix flew to Dallas to offer Blockbuster a 49% stake in their company for $50 million. The Blockbuster executives reportedly laughed them out of the room. That's the story everyone tells. It's also true. But it's not why Blockbuster died. Because 4 years later, Blockbuster did try to compete with Netflix. They launched their own streaming era service. For a stretch in 2006 and 2007, they were beating Netflix on subscriber growth. And then they stopped competing. Not because they didn't see the threat, but because they ran out of room to fight. This is the Blockbuster story most people don't know, and it's the third case study in a framework I use on this channel to explain every business outcome you'll ever read about, the 4 forces. Quick recap. Every company is shaped by 4 forces: market, the conditions they operate in; money, how they're funded, and what that costs them; management, the decisions made at the top; moment, the timing and events they didn't choose. All 4 are always present. Only one is decisive. Let's find Blockbusters. In 2000, Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores worldwide. They rented videos to about 65 million households. The home video market was bigger than the box office, and Blockbuster was the dominant brand in it. But the market was changing on 2 timelines. The slow timeline was DVD by mail. Netflix launched its subscription service in 1999. No late fees, no driving to the store, just a red envelope in the mail. For a small slice of the market, people who watched a lot of movies and lived in cities where mail delivery was reliable, it was strictly better than going to Blockbuster. The fast timeline was internet bandwidth. Streaming wasn't yet viable in 2000, but anyone paying attention to broadband adoption could see what was coming. By 2007, Netflix would launch streaming. By 2010, it would be the company's primary product. Both of these were real shifts, but the home video market itself was still huge in 2004 and 2005 and 2006. There was time. Blockbuster had a brand, store locations, and a customer base that any startup would have killed for. A well-run, well-funded Blockbuster could have made the transition. We know this because Blockbuster briefly was making the transition market a real shift, but survivable on the relevant timeline. This is where the Toys R Us pattern starts repeating, but earlier and quieter. In 1994, Viacom bought Blockbuster for about $8.4 billion. Sumner Redstone wanted Blockbuster's cash flow to help finance Viacom's acquisition of Paramount, so almost from day one, Blockbuster was being run to optimize cash extraction up to the parent company. That meant underinvestment. It meant fewer new initiatives. It meant Blockbuster's senior leadership shuffled regularly as Viacom moved people in and out. By the early 2000s, Viacom wanted out. They spun Blockbuster off in October of 2004 to fund a special $5 per share dividend back to Viacom shareholders. On the way out the door, Blockbuster took on roughly $1 billion in fresh debt, about $900 million in a new loan, plus existing obligations. The spin-off started independent life with a balance sheet shaped by what Viacom had needed to extract. So when Blockbuster Online launched in August of 2004, the company carrying it had about $1 billion in debt, a retail footprint requiring constant cash to maintain. An activist investor named Carl Icahn building a position with his own ideas about what the company should do. The story most people remember about Icahn and Blockbuster is the proxy fight in 2005. He won 3 board seats. He wanted dividends and buybacks. He clashed publicly with the CEO, John Antioco, over the direction of the company. The specific fight that mattered was about late fees. Antioco wanted to eliminate them because customers hated them, because Netflix was eating share precisely because of them, and because keeping them was the single biggest brand liability Blockbuster had. Icahn wanted them kept because they were generating somewhere between $250 and $300 million a year in operating income. Antioco won the fight. Late fees were eliminated in January of 2005. The earnings hit was real. The stock dropped. Icahn used the dropped stock as evidence that Antioco had to go. Antioco was pushed out in 2007. So here's the picture. Blockbuster Online is competing with Netflix, gaining share but losing money. The retail business is starting to bleed because the late fees are gone. The debt service still has to be paid. Management is at war with the largest shareholder, and the largest shareholder is using stock price logic to evaluate a long-term strategic investment. Money's role here isn't a single broken spine event the way it was for Toys R Us. It's a constraint that ran underneath every decision. Blockbuster could not afford a long, expensive war with Netflix. They tried to fight one anyway. Money, the constraint that made everything else harder. This is the decisive force, and it has two parts. Part one is the famous one. In 2000, Blockbuster's CEO at the time and his team passed on buying Netflix for $50 million. By any reasonable read, that's a strategic miss. Netflix's eventual market cap by the time Blockbuster was filing for bankruptcy was about $17 billion. The $50 million offer was a 500 times return on the trade. They missed it. But part one is less interesting than part two. Part two is what happened in 2007. John Antioco, the CEO who had eliminated late fees, launched Blockbuster Online and was actually competing with Netflix, was forced out. The man Carl Icahn brought in to replace him, Jim Keyes, made a series of decisions that defined the next 3 years. Keyes reversed the late fee elimination. Keyes deprioritized Blockbuster Online. Keyes pushed the company back toward the in-store rental model that had been Blockbuster's traditional strength. In a vacuum, none of those decisions are obviously crazy. The retail business was where the cash came from. Blockbuster Online was burning money. Going back to what had worked is a defensible move when the alternative is unsustainable. The problem is, going back wasn't actually the alternative. The alternative was changing what Blockbuster was. By 2008, the home video market wasn't going to come back to retail rental. Even if Blockbuster perfectly executed the in-store strategy, they were perfectly executing toward a market that wasn't going to exist. The company that needed to exist by 2010 was a streaming company, not a store company. That's the management call that decided things. Not the Netflix acquisition mistake in 2000, but the strategic retreat in 2007. Keyes was replaced as CEO in 2010, just months before the bankruptcy filing. By then, the war was over. Management, decisive. The 2008 financial crisis hit Blockbuster the same way it hit every brick-and-mortar retailer. Consumer spending dropped. Refinancing got harder. The company that had been holding on with $1 billion in debt was now holding on with $1 billion in debt during a credit crunch. In September 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11. They emerged briefly, got bought by Dish Network in 2011, and the remaining stores wound down over the next several years. The Moment Force here mostly closed off Blockbuster's last refinancing options. It wasn't the killing blow. The killing blow had already landed in the strategic decisions of 2007. Moment, an accelerant, not the cause. So let's grade them out. Market, a real shift but survivable on the relevant timeline. Money, a chronic constraint, not a single decisive event. Moment, an accelerant. Management, decisive, the popular story. They passed on Netflix. Points at the right force, but the wrong moment. The 2000 decision was a missed opportunity. The 2007 decision was the one that ended the company. By the time Jim Keyes pulled Blockbuster back from streaming, the chance to be the dominant home video brand of the streaming era was gone. But the deeper read is that the management failure didn't happen in a vacuum. The reason an activist investor had board control was that the company's debt and Viacom era underinvestment had made it look like a financial engineering target. The reason the new CEO wanted to retreat to retail was that retail was where the cash flow lived, and the cash flow had to service the debt. Money didn't kill Blockbuster on its own, but money made the management call inevitable. Management decided. Money decided what management could decide. Next case, a company that invented the future and then chose deliberately